USCHO.com.
Welcome to USCHO Spotlight for Wednesday, February 1st, 2023. Each week we talk with a coach, player, administrator, or journalist about college hockey. This podcast is sponsored by the NCAA Men's Division I Frozen Four, April 6th and 8th at Amalie Arena in Tampa, Florida. Secure your seats at ncaa.com/mfrozen4. I'm Ed Trefzger alongside Jim Connelly. Our guest today has 3 national championships in his tenure at Minnesota Duluth and has been on the World Junior coaching staff 3 times, including twice as a head coach.
Joining us now on USCHO Spotlight, the head coach of University of Minnesota Duluth, that's Scott Sandelin. Scott, ups and downs this season, no doubt, but 3 straight wins, including a sweep of number 1 St. Cloud State last weekend. Let's start with the good. Let's start with the last 3 games. What has been working for your team? What do you like about the way your team has played these last 3 games?
Well, obviously this past weekend we scored some goals, right? Power play got going and makes life a lot easier, and that's been a struggle for us most of the year to score goals. I think we've played some pretty good hockey. I think it's been in stretches where you like to see a little more consistency, but I do feel like we've played some pretty good hockey. Even going into the end of the first half, with the 2 games against Denver where we lost in overtime, both games where, again, maybe we have an opportunity to win 1 or 2 of those games. But, just goal scoring and just some consistencies from period to period. But I thought we played, we played well at North Dakota. We lost Friday and then got a hard fought win with a fortunate bounce. So, again, a little bit of luck doesn't hurt, but and last weekend was a lot of special teams, and our power play came through, and just the fact to be able to score 5 goals, 6 goals, felt pretty good.
On the other side, I did mention right away, it's been an up and down year.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's easy to not be around your team and say, "Oh, this Minnesota Duluth team isn't as good as it used to be." Maybe they're not. This is just isn't their year. Well, we never really take into account what injuries can do. And because you have guys like Bruce Siskey and Matt Wellens around your program, 2 really well-respected journalists, if you follow them on social media, you know that this has not been an easy year in terms of body count for you guys. How bad have injuries been for this team at this point?
Again, and I think, you and I talked off air, I'm not an excuse guy, right? I think it happens to every team, but, when you have a lot of new faces, we had 10 freshmen and 2 transfers. So you get 12 new guys, and, just to try and develop some continuity and chemistry, I think was difficult through a lot of the first half, just from week to week, whether it was short-term injury, long-term injury, just making decisions, midweek towards the end of the week, who's in, who's out. You prepare early in the week for a certain lineup, and then maybe add a guy. And so again, everybody goes through that, but it just made it difficult. I think, lately, even towards the end of the first half, we kind of got into probably 3 of our 4 lines that we currently have right now, and we've kind of stuck with that. And I just feel like because of that too, there's a little bit more gelling and a little more chemistry with our group. And, we've got everybody back now. We've got our 13 forwards that's what we have to finish the year, and 8 defensemen. So, and all 3 goalies. So we're missing a couple guys. That's it for the year. But, again, you go through it, and I think there's silver linings in it too, where other guys are being put in positions, and some of our younger guys have been put in positions to play maybe a little bit more in certain situations than maybe they would have. So I think we're seeing the growth of those guys too because of it.
You mentioned your freshman class, and one of those freshmen leads your team in scoring right now. Ben Steeves, small player, just 5'8", but he could put the puck in the net. That's kind of obvious. 16 goals to this point, and he ended up with 4 last week, and that got him off a little bit of a scoring schneid, as it had been, I think, maybe 7 games without a goal. What do you like about his game?
He's a fireball. I can tell you that. He's a competitive player, and he's a guy that loves to shoot the puck. Obviously, coming off a great year at Sioux City, where they obviously won the championship, and he had 39 goals in the regular season and another 6. So he knows how to score. He loves to score, and those guys that love to shoot the puck usually do score. So even when he didn't score in those 7 games, he was getting opportunities, whether they were going in or not. That happens, but just continues to do what he does. But he's ultra competitive. I think he's come in here and done an unbelievable job for a freshman. Sometimes I got to calm him down a little bit, get that balance between the emotion, because he plays the game with a lot of emotion, and I'd rather have that to try and kind of tone that down than to try and put that into players. But he's had a great year for us. It was great to see him score last weekend to kind of get off that schneid, but he'll continue to shoot pucks, and hopefully he can continue to put the puck in the net for us.
You've gone, it seems, most of this year splitting your goaltending. Zach Stachel, who is the veteran, and then Matthew Thiessen, a transfer that came in from the University of Maine. Both of these guys have pretty similar numbers. What are these each? What are the kind of the characteristics you look for from each goalie? Do you feel like splitting is the way you want to go as you get into the playoffs, or do you prefer to see kind of one guy just take the reins?
We're kind of building towards something there, Jim. Like I think early in the year, they both got opportunities. Zach obviously coming back as kind of our 1A, because returning and what he's done in the past. And I mean, the year before, obviously coming off the cancer and playing a few games for us at the end of the year. But, I think they both have had their moments. They both have had opportunities to play multiple games in a row. And, we just kind of made the decision here to go with kind of a split here and see if one of them wants to grab it. And, we've got obviously, a couple, this weekend, and then we've got a bye weekend and then 6 games left. So that verdict's still out, whether we continue to split them or not. But right now, that's kind of the way we've been going. And, sometimes it is nice to just have one, and that guy knows that. But hopefully one of these guys can grab that. But that's kind of how we've been going. We need better. And again, it's not on our goaltenders. I'd like to see the numbers be a little bit better. But again, when they have played well, we haven't given them the run support. So it's kind of that it goes back to the team thing, right? Again. So, but that's what we're doing now. We'll see what happens here in the next few weeks.
Scott, it seems to me just like yesterday that the advent of the Big Ten meant a shuffling of the leagues and the creation of the NCHC. But now your league is celebrating its 10th anniversary. The league's had a bunch of national championships, 2 of them for your program during that time. Looking back over this decade of the NCHC, how would you sum up how the league has been to be part of?
Yeah, there was a lot of uncertainty, right, Ed, before going into this. You start kind of creating a new league. Obviously we had we were in a great league that was traditionally very strong. And that's all I knew as a player and a coach, the WCHA. So you start getting out of that and starting something new. There's always uncertainty, but I think it's been a really fun league to be a part of. I think the parity in our league, the challenges every weekend have been the big reason why I think our league's done well in postseason. We had a great commissioner in Josh Fenton that I think did a tremendous job for our league, growing our league, putting it kind of at the forefront. Obviously, he's not with us anymore, but he did a tremendous job. And like I said, I'm the only one that's still a holdover. So, there's been a lot of change, right? Whether it's been administration, obviously coaches. So I'm kind of the old guy there, but it's been fun. And obviously, we've had a lot of success and hopefully that continues.
Your time in coaching college hockey goes back to being an assistant at your alma mater in North Dakota, and 23 years, I think it is now, at Minnesota Duluth. And over that time, coaching has had a lot of tools added. You've got video now that you didn't have before, analytics. How are you able to use those tools both for teaching players and also for preparing for opponents?
Yeah, it certainly has changed. I can go back to when I played. I don't think we ever watched any video, right? very seldom. And if it was on the old 8-tracks or those little cassette tapes, right? But yeah, I mean, there's so many resources now. Obviously, we use video quite a bit. I think you got to be careful with a little bit of that too, not overdo it. The analytics still continuing to learn. I'm still a little bit old school. I know Bruce was throwing out some numbers the other week, and I think I told him I'm too dumb to understand what those mean. So just put the puck in the net. But there's some great value in the analytics. Obviously, there's great value in video. And certainly the instat is a big part too. The players get an opportunity to watch their shifts kind of a little bit quicker than maybe before. So there's just so many resources for coaches and players to continue to develop in the right path. And we try and utilize those the best of our ability. But I just kind of want to be careful with not overdoing things with certain things, because I do think analytics, if you have to use the right pieces of that, I think, because there's so much of it. So I think picking out what you want that kind of either shows trends or things within your games and your team, I think is important. But just like video, I think there's things you can show, but you can overdo it. We may watch a lot of video as coaches, but I think what you show your team and what I've learned is keep it shorter, right? Keep it shorter and just, get to the point.
More with Scott Sandelin in a moment. USCHO Spotlight is sponsored by the NCAA Men's Division I Frozen Four, April 6th and 8th at Amalie Arena in Tampa.
All right, class, it's the NCAA Men's Frozen Four. Welcome to Fandom 101. Want to help your team rule the rink? Here's your assignment. Lesson 1, go big for every goal. 2, when you bring enough for the whole class. And 3, attendance is encouraged, but passion is mandatory. The NCAA Men's Frozen Four, April 6th and 8th at Amalie Arena in Tampa, Florida. Buy your tickets today at ncaa.com/mfrozen4. Class dismissed.
We're back with Minnesota Duluth head coach Scott Sandelin. Speaking of video, there's been a change in the rules this year on video challenges. You lose a timeout if you're unsuccessful, and then bench minors after that, but it gives you more opportunity on video. There's also been a change in majors, allowing a major without adding the game misconduct to that. How's that, in your view? How's that been working out so far this season with these?
I'm not. I didn't like all the extra challenges personally. That's me. I mean, I know there was a lot of talk of going right to the minor if you lost a challenge, but with our video system, if it was better, I think we'd all agree that would be a good plan. I'm looking at speeding up games, not extending games. I think sometimes these reviews really kind of wreck the game. You want to get the call right, but at the same time, I still think there's been misses even with video, but I think it's been okay. I'm still the verdict out on the 5-minute standalone major. I'm still an old school guy. Again, like I said, I'd like to see the 2 and 10 in there. I just don't know what. I think the question, it's like the goalie interference, what is and what isn't. And I think we're still learning that because this is the first year of it. So hopefully that gets better. But, I do agree that there are hits that kids should not be kicked out of a game for. I think we helped start this rule because of the NCAA tournament last year with the Michigan Tech player. But I do think there's merit to it. I do think that there are some hits that even I don't know if they're 5s, they could be just 2s, right? And so it's the first year of it. So hopefully we'll get some video and everybody will get better in learning what is and what isn't. But I guess time will tell.
We were talking before we started recording. This is your first year out of 4 as a member of the D1 Men's Ice Hockey Committee. How's that been so far?
Well, it's been good learning, right? It's another call today, but it's haven't got into the crux of everything yet with the end of the year, but it's been fun to be a part of so far, and I'm looking forward to continuing to kind of learn a little bit more about how everything works, right? We sit on the outside and I know talking to my good friend Mike Schaefer, who was on the board, said I'll love it. So I'm looking forward to kind of being a part of it, at the end of the year here and moving forward. So it's been good and got a good committee. And I know there'll be probably some criticisms at the end of the year, like there always is on the committee, but looking forward to kind of getting to the end of the year and seeing how all that part of it works as far as selections and, picking out where people go and hopefully I can add some things too from some of the experiences, even at the tournament, that I've been a part of.
Scott, going back to this year's team, when you have had some challenges, whether it be a losing streak, whether it be some of the injuries, how's the leadership been on this team, and how much as a coach do you lean on your leaders?
A lot, Jim. I think our leadership's been good. I think at times they've been, frustrated, just like probably the coaching staff. But we've had a couple good discussions. Like you always do with your captains, and then again you bring that to your team. You can't have too many of them because to me that's a waste of time. So we just try to make sure that if we are having discussions that they're very pointed and we're honest with each other, and we try and get to what's bothering or what's the problem, and I think our guys have been pretty open about that. So I think that's been good. But again, they're an extension of the coaching staff, and all the teams that I've had in the past with really good leadership has made my job and our coaching staff's job a lot easier because everybody's saying the right things. But there's been some challenges this year, there's no question, and we kind of knew that going in. But I think as the year has gone on, those guys have grown as leaders too.
Let's talk about this weekend upcoming, Western Michigan. You've seen them already once this year up at Western Michigan, a 2-game series split, win and a loss for each team. They're coming into your barn. First off, the team, but second off, you got to kind of experience it a little bit last week with a wild crowd and St. Cloud stayed in and the excitement. But how great is it going to be able to have this one on home ice?
Well, I'm glad we got the trip to Lawson out early because it's a hard place to win. It's a fun place. It's a great place to play. I still think the game speeds up 3 times when you go to that rink. But no, they're a very good team. Obviously they can score goals. There's some guys on their team. McAllister is having an unbelievable freshman year. Jason Poland. I think guys like Luke Granger have taken big steps. They're a dangerous team offensively. They're great transition teams. It's very, very similar to what we saw with St. Cloud, right? So that's good for us leading into it as far as kind of the style and how they play. They play quickly. They go north quickly, and they love to score, and they love to get to the net. And obviously their power play is good too. So, again, we're going to see a team that is very similar to what we just saw. And so hopefully our guys, can handle that, right? I mean, we had a great series with them, in Kalamazoo. We won 5-4. The game started off, I think there was 4 or 6 goals. I think it was 3-3, 12 minutes into the game. It was one of those buckle in. It could be a 10-9 game. Ended up 5-4. And then Saturday, they were the better team Saturday. We were opportunistic and led 3-1. They got a late goal in the second, and we didn't respond very well. And they came back and beat us 5-3 with an empty netter. So we've had some great games with them. I expect it to be the same way here, but we're going to see a team very similar and riding a wave of confidence right now too offensively.
You kind of explained what sounds like the potential for some track meet type of games. Your team, I've never watched a Duluth team that I've thought, hey, they love playing in a track meet. Do you try to shift and adjust the game back to the game you like to play when you get against a team like a St. Cloud or a Western?
Sometimes you got, again, it's just being aware of things, right? And I think, again, we know kind of how those teams transition. We know how they like to get out of their zone. And sometimes you can fall asleep. So you got to be on your toes all the time and just, playing above people. It's the standard stuff, but you just got to be aware of it and really take care of pucks because their transition, they love to feed off that. Any type of turnovers, whether it's entering their zone or in their zone, in the neutral zone, they pounce and go. And you got to really be aware of that and really manage the puck. And, And so sometimes you don't necessarily have to switch and change everything, but we kind of go in with a game plan, and sometimes those game plans work and sometimes they don't. So last weekend, I think we did a good job against St. Cloud, limiting, outnumbered rushes and getting caught, against too many of their numbers. And we're going to have to do the same thing this weekend.
Well, there's a lot on the line, not just 2 wins, but possibly even a home ice spot in the NCHC tournament. So should be a great weekend of hockey up in Duluth. So Scott Sandelin, thanks so much. Good luck the rest of the way. Hopefully if things go really well, we'll have you back on NCAA tournament time.
Well, that'd be great. No, it was great talking to you. Thanks for having me on, guys.
That's Minnesota Duluth Scott Sandelin. You mentioned the 10 years of the NCHC, and Scott pointed out he is the only coach to have been there the whole time. And I did the math. There hasn't been a lot of turnover, but there have been 9 coaching changes since the league was founded. And he's been the one solid guy there. 2 of his national championships, 18 and 19, in the NCHC.
Yeah, you know what? I think that's kind of typifies college hockey. You don't have coaches that stay around for 40 years like Jack Parker did, or 20, whatever it was, 28 or something for Jerry York. You had Red Berenson at Michigan forever, and it just doesn't happen anymore. The guys like Scott Sandelin, they're the breath of fresh air for us. We deal with these coaches a lot. It's nice when they are the same and you get to know them and you develop relationships. But, at the same time, we've also seen an unbelievable influx of young, talented coaches. And that's changed the game, I think, a lot over the last 5 to 10 years. And that should continue. I see that trend continuing as some of these older coaches decide to retire. But I love a guy like Scotty Sandelin that can be an institutional coach. That program and its name will always be tied to Scott Sandelin for what he's accomplished. And he deserves that for almost more than 2 decades in Duluth.
Well, after being an assistant with Dean Blaze, he was in his mid-30s, one of those young guys when he started at Minnesota Duluth. So, and I remember him talking about maybe feeling a little insecure for some of that at the beginning until that big 2011 win over Michigan there in the Frozen Four. The NCHC, he spoke very highly of it, and their former commissioner, Josh Fenton. Really, it seems like most of the pining for the old WCHA has sort of faded away as both the Big Ten and the NCHC have risen to some more prominence. But you have to give that conference a lot of credit for propelling the whole sport forward to where it is today.
Oh, I definitely think so. When you really go back and remember where we were 10 years ago and the upheaval of fans, I mean, there was some really angry fans, longtime fans of the game, could not believe that you were going to take teams like Minnesota and Wisconsin and North Dakota and pull them apart and not have them all be in the same league any longer. And that was something that just didn't sit well with a lot of people. But as we've gotten into it, you look at places like Minnesota now, or Michigan, even coming from the CCHA, and they had the same thing. Oh, how can you pull us away from our CCHA teams? Well, you look at those buildings now, and they have their best attendance on Big Ten game nights. And the same thing can be said for almost any school in the NCHC. North Dakota aside, they get great attendance every night, but these schools bang it out because these conference opponents that the rivalries have developed over the last 10 years, they're headed to town, and we're ready to see, Minnesota Duluth take on Denver. We're ready to see St. Cloud State, host North Dakota. Those are becoming big games. And the same thing in the Big Ten, Minnesota against Michigan, Minnesota against Notre Dame. These are big series for these schools. They bang out the buildings, and it's worked. It's that's the best way you can put it. We would have, if it didn't work. College hockey is comfortable enough, I think, now with change that they would have changed it quick. They would have found a way to retool the leagues all over again 5, 6, 7 years later. But the reality was that they didn't need that. And I think that it's a testament to the sport that there's passionate fan bases in a lot of different cities, and people can change. And I think it also helps that some of the old rivalries, like a Minnesota and North Dakota, they've still played some games in non-conference play, because those are the ones that fans still get pretty heated up for in non-conference games. But you go into an average building on a non-conference Friday or Saturday, and you might have a pretty empty house, or maybe you're only half full or 2/3 full. You go in for some of these old rivalries from the WCHA or some of these old CCHA rivalries, and you still have great crowds.
We've talked to a lot of coaches over the years who have been members of the Division I committee. First year now for Scott Sandelin. I think he's going to bring a lot to that committee, not just his experience, but he's got some real good sense about the game and how it's played. I think he's going to be a real benefit to that group.
You know what? The tournament is the kind of the pride and joy of the NCAA. They do a good job. I have to admit it. A lot of people criticize the NCAA. I think that the organization as a whole wants to do a good job and put on these fantastic national championships. But you need people that have experienced them hands-on. Mike Schaefer has been on the committee. Rick Godkin from Mercyhurst, he's been in a couple of NCAA tournaments. You get Scott Sandelin, that's been to a lot of Frozen Fours. These coaches, they have that experience, and they can take the information that they've garnered over the years. What worked? What didn't work? What were some of the weird things that you'd say that doesn't seem to work? How do you bring that back to the committee as feedback and say, is this something we can change? Stuff like the pairwise and stuff like the RPI and the calculations and all that stuff, that's really above the heads of most of these coaches. You have somebody that is very, math oriented, that works for or represents the NCAA in this situation. And they basically just present it to the coaches and kind of say, here's what we think the result will be if we make these types of changes. So that's not really what you're thinking about the committee for. You're thinking about the committee to run a great championship, and throughout the year, administer the sport in a way that's responsible and has some good forward thought. And I think that, coaches that have been in this game for a long time, they're the ones that belong on this committee. Athletic directors that have been around big programs that understand it. Sports administrators, so assistant athletic directors, deputy athletic directors, whatever the title may be, that have administrated the sport for a number of years, they belong on the committee. That's the type of additional focus that can bring this game to a higher level, not just this regular season, but especially that postseason tournament, the NCAA championship.
Well, Jim, USCHO Spotlight is sponsored by the NCAA Men's Division I Frozen Four, April 6th and 8th at Amalie Arena in Tampa, Florida. Get your tickets at ncaa.com/mfrozen4. Find our podcasts at uscho.com/podcasts or subscribe on your favorite podcast app. For Jim Connelly, I'm Ed Trefzger, and this has been USCHO Spotlight.